Good morning, everybody. JP Collins here. It's about a little after 8 on Thursday, May 11th, 2017, and it is Bike to Work Day here in San Francisco. And behind me, it's reading backwards to you, but to me, this is the bike counter. And so far, let's see, we've got about just under 500 people, and it's only 8 o'clock. But by the time 9:30 hits, we'll be in the thousands for sure. People are starting their commute, and I'm going to turn around so you can see the people as they come. I'm also going to show you some things. So basically, I'm going to talk to you today about Bike to Work Day and bicycles and the infrastructure of the importance of bicycle infrastructure in any community, especially big cities. So I'm going to turn around here. Behind me, actually, kind of interesting of note. This is the old San Francisco Mart building. They used to have furniture dealers in this building, but it's now known as the Twitter building. So here on Market Street, and as you can see, I've got bicycles behind me. I'm going to bring this up so you can see people coming by, and they're on their way to work. So, Bike to Work Day, what's the importance of it? Well, it's just a celebration. It's a advocacy and an important day to mark to say, it's time to pay attention to getting to work or getting anywhere, really, other than taking a car or other, vehicles that use, energy other than your own. It's about active transportation. Why do I like Bike to Work Day? Well, as you can see, I'm a little dressed up. I like to dress up for Bike to Work Day. It's because, there is no drive to work day, okay? There is no take a bus to work day because, well, those aren't exciting, those aren't fun. But biking to work day, biking to work actually is. It's both exciting and fun. Sometimes it's exciting in ways that you don't want. It's in sort of negative ways. But for the most part, it's a lot of you get your exercise, you get some fresh air, you get to see things at a different pace than you do when you're in a vehicle. There is a walk to work day, but that day I rode my bike. So I'm just not that. Walking's okay. I walk. So I say that biking is number 1, walking is number 2, bus is number 3, and cars are number 4. So that's the last choice that I have when I want to get around. That includes taxis too. So behind me, if you'll notice, there are green bike lanes, okay? And I'm going to turn this around so you can see this so I can see what you're seeing better. Now, what you're seeing here is something known as a protected bike lane. And in the distance there, and I don't know if you can see it very well, I can't seem to get this to increase in size, to zoom in, but in the background are bike shared bikes. So it's a bike share program, and it's called, what is it? It's like Bay Bike Share or something, I don't know. Anyway, SFA Bike Share. I haven't used the system yet, but it's kind of cool. You use a credit card and things like that. But it's a privileged kind of bike share program. We like to encourage non-privileged things, but there's another program out there. It's less known. I think it's the Yellow Bike Share program, and it's just a free bike share, and it's for people who are of lesser means, who would still like to borrow a bike for a time and go do whatever they need to do on that bike. Me, I do just about everything on my bike. I do my grocery shopping. I go to work. I have even been known to go to the nursery and get plants and soil, and just about everything that you can do in a car, I have done on a bike. Well, not everything, but okay. I thought I stopped my it looks like I'm still live. I think I'm still live. Okay, so I'm going to switch this around. Okay, back to me. And it looks like I'm still live. I hope so. All right, it says live on the thing, so I guess I'm still live. All right, I would really like it if Facebook could give me some other feedback, like sound, things like that. They give you those little sound bars when you're watching it play, but not when you're recording. Okay, so the green bike lanes. Now, these green bike lanes that I've been talking about, they're also called cycle tracks, and they're some of them are separated, some of them are not. But I love the ones that are separated and set aside because it keeps the cars out of the lane, especially double parking. Now in Europe, they've had bike infrastructure since the 1970s. The oil crisis caused them to start rethinking active transportation, and they didn't come come full-blown, like what they have today in cities like Copenhagen, Berlin, Amsterdam, and Stockholm. They had to develop these things, and so they started developing and engineering things called cycle tracks, and they're separated from the main traffic, and they allow cyclists to ride at their own pace. Now, in the U.S., these are things that are just starting to come about, maybe in the last 7 years. And here in San Francisco, things have been moving very slowly in that regard. We're getting things. We're starting to get them. We've had this one on market for a few years. It's very nice. We're starting to see other bike infrastructure being put into place. But we haven't been seeing the growth that we'd like to see, and we certainly don't have the infrastructure that they have in Europe. Let's see. Now, there's a reason for that, okay? And I'm still distracted. I'm sorry. I'm very distracted right now because I feel like I accidentally stopped this broadcast or podcast. So I'm hoping that I'm still live. It says that I'm live, so I'm thinking that I'm still live. So sorry for the distraction. Now, so Europe, they've had these things for years, probably since the 1970s. They're 40 years ahead of us. But in the U.S., the reason that we don't have that, and the reason that the bicycle is really thought of as a toy or as a device that is for exercise only or for athleticism. It's because we haven't really thought of the bike as a means of getting around. We're very car-centric here, and part of that reason has to do with a cyclist, believe it or not. Now, there's a guy named John Forrester, and in the 1970s, he was and probably before that, I forget when he took over, but he was the director of the League of American Wheelmen. Okay, so a very 19th century sounding name. They did start in the 19th century, and they advocated for well-paved roads, and they unfortunately kind of shot themselves in the foot by doing that, because what makes it nice for bikes also makes it nice for automobiles, and the car eventually overtook the bike as a means of getting around. The League of American Wheelmen is now the American cycle. I don't know. I forget what they're called, but anyway. So he advocated for something that he designed. He was an engineer. He came up with this idea called effective cycling, and basically that was advocating that bikes should be considered part of traffic. They should be acting and treated like cars, and that they should be, out there in the road, not in bike lanes. Now, bike lanes make it easy for just about anybody to bike in. Having to ride out in the road, not so much. So it's basically the fit and the fearless who are out there riding, competing for road space with cars, and nobody else can really feel like they're comfortable enough to go do that. So it really made it so that less people were out on the road, less people were cycling. People would start taking their bikes out into, say, the park only on Sundays, or going, riding at the beach, or places where it was safer, felt, more comfortable to ride at a leisurely pace. So again, the green bike lanes, the cycle tracks, they make it a little easier for we're still working on this, right? So we need to improve these more. But their statistics show that women would ride more if there was bike infrastructure that supported cyclists to ride at their own pace. The elderly, children, and beginners too. When I first started riding again, now I used to ride. Before I had a car, I rode everywhere. And then I turned 16, and I was in Southern California, and at that time you just had to have a car. But that was the time when gasoline first hit the dollar mark, and boy, that was a long time ago. And I kind of regret giving up my bike. So in the 80s, when I moved to San Francisco, I tried cycling again, and it was hell. It was absolute hell. So I stopped for a while, and I picked it up about 10 years ago. And I've never gone back, and I actually got rid of my car. So John Forrester is pretty responsible for putting us backward in terms of like making us think of bicycles and cycling. Hey guys, as a viable means of getting around. So effective cycling, just it was all about being I don't know, an athlete out there on the road, a road warrior. So to this day, it's like pulling teeth. And I mentioned that in San Francisco we're still trying to get some of these things in place. But it is like pulling teeth because despite what the SF Bike Coalition says, and all kudos to them because of the advocacy work that they do. There's been projects like Masonic Avenue here in San Francisco, which is basically it was designed the way it is now in the 1950s during the whole freeway craze. And it looks like Julie's online and watching, so that proves to me that I am actually still online and podcasting. So Masonic Avenue is sort of like an inner highway, right? It's like 4 or 5 lanes of traffic with a couple sidewalks, and it is like a corridor, and it's very, very fast. They put a speed limit of 25 miles per hour, but because of the way the visual lines and because of the way it's designed and set up, it's a big, wide corridor. You just speed. I mean, I've even found myself speeding even though I wasn't trying to. So it's designed in a way to move traffic fast through a given area. So what we've been trying to do is put it on a road diet, lower the speed. The way you lower speed, and believe it or not, when you add bicycle infrastructure, and you add things like softscaping, like there's an antique streetcar going by on Market Street. When you add things like softscape, like greenery, trees, and things like that, it actually slows traffic down and makes it better for everybody. So what we're trying to do is get bike lanes on Masonic, slow traffic down. There's already a bus line on there, so what we're trying to do is get that. And we have been waiting, I think it's going on 11 or 12 years now. Okay, we've gone through all the charrettes, we've done all the design work. I have no idea. Well, basically, it's because people really they don't. There's a lot of pushback on bike lanes. People don't trust them. They use a safety argument. They use you're taking away our parking argument. They're using okay. So here's the thing with Masonic, real quick on the side. There is parking on Masonic, but not a lot. And a lot of the people who are objecting to putting bike lanes in are people who own homes and who actually have garages, and they're using the parking argument. So I'm not really sure what that's all about because they actually have a garage, which is a very unique commodity to have in San Francisco. So things are moving slow, and there's a number of reasons for that. But when you put in bike lanes and bike infrastructure, who benefits? Well, the thing is it's not just cyclists. And as I mentioned before, women feel more comfortable and they start riding. Children can ride because it's a safe space for them to ride. Beginners feel comfortable starting out, and the elderly too. So I'm going to repeat that, but it's true. When you put in bike infrastructure, it helps people feel more comfortable, more relaxed to do the riding that they want to do, ride at their own pace. They don't have to compete with traffic. But really, the whole community benefits because you have slower traffic. You don't have these inner highways anymore where traffic is just blowing through, which causes a lot of noise. It makes for a very uncomfortable, I mean, if you've walked along Masonic Avenue, it's an uncomfortable place to be. It's like walking along a highway, even though it's a street in the city, okay? So the community benefits. It's a safer situation. Cars go slower. There's less collisions. And by the way, let's stop calling them accidents. Let's call them collisions, okay? And I'm going to do a podcast on cars, but today is about bikes. So you're slowing traffic down. You're making it safe for everybody. And the other thing that's interesting about putting in bike infrastructure is that it actually helps local commerce. And it kind of sounds counterintuitive because you think that, you need to have people in cars going to a place where people go shopping. Now, in San Francisco, it's tight quarters here, and we do have street parking, and there's parking meters. But what's been suggested, especially on an area called Polk Street, is that the parking get taken out and given over to a bike lane. Well, we got a lot of pushback from the merchants who said, you're taking away our customer base. Well, basically what's going on, and the statistics prove, and I don't have them for you, but I've been reading them over the years, is that in aggregate, people who go shopping in districts like Polk Street spend more money. Okay, so in aggregate, pedestrians, people who take the bus, and cyclists, okay, spend more money as a whole than people going to that same district using their car. Now, what's happening a lot of times with the parking meters is that the shopkeepers put their cars in a space in front of their shop, and they keep feeding the meter, and that's a little bit of a problem. I mean, the city's making their money, but basically they're taking up that parking place for potential customers. So their argument is kind of bullshit, right? So. And for instance, the woman who cuts my hair said that a lot of her, on Polk Street, okay, who said that a lot of her customers come from other places, the East Bay, like Oakland and things like that. But, anecdotally, I've found that the people walking in who want to make an appointment or come in to see her shop while I'm getting my hair cut at least, 90% of them are walk-ins from the neighborhood, okay, or they're in the district, and they're not coming from Oakland, and they're not coming from other parts of the city. So it's a local business. It attracts local customers, okay? So bicycles help slow down that traffic, and people start paying attention. Now, this has even been proven in areas that are like, strip mall type of situations or more rural situations where there's a strip of stores, and cars are blowing by, okay? They're just blowing by. What they found is when they put a bike lane in and they put the road on a road diet, slowed traffic down, that people were actually starting to stop in and, buy things from these merchants. So they actually liked, having that infrastructure. It actually made business better. Something else, we did a podcast a while ago about something called Sunday Streets, and the same thing happened there. The merchants were all against it when the first Sunday Streets was proposed, and when it came about, and they thought that blocking traffic and keeping people out with their cars would take business away. Well, in actuality, it increased business, and they started wanting it more. Okay, so they wanted Sunday Streets more often because it actually increased business. People could relax and walk around. People could ride their bikes to a place and feel comfortable. People could be at a slower pace, take in the scenery, and feel like they want to go to a store, okay? They see a place and they go, oh, hey, that looks interesting, okay? So that's what bicycle infrastructure does. That's what cycling does for a community. It improves things. It doesn't detract. It doesn't slow down traffic. In fact, if anything, they found that traffic congestion does not increase. Traffic, and I'm putting some links to some stories to a couple articles that I read a long time ago. They're in Momentum magazine, and I put them in this podcast. There goes another streetcar. These old streetcars from the turn of the last century are very noisy, as you can tell. Okay, so ultimately there's less traffic. It's slower. It increases business, it increases safety, it makes people feel more comfortable, more human, and it puts things at a more decent pace so that your day is starting better. I know that most of the days, there's times when traffic is a little hairy. That's because our bike infrastructure isn't complete. But there's times on Market Street that can be a little scary, a little hairy, and but at the same time, it only makes my day better later on afterwards. So ultimately, there's less traffic, there's fewer collisions, people are happy, people are happier, people are relaxed, and you get to ride a bike. So what's more awesome than that? And I'll finish with this. I was talking to Julie about this last night, and I was going to open with this, but I think I'll close with it. The bicycle must be and I consider it anyway, the most, at least in America, the most hated and yet at the same time the most loved word in the English language in North America. So people love it, people hate it. There's nothing in between. And Julie says, plus you can put playing cards in the spokes, and you can do that, and you can make a sound that sounds like you have a motor, which is kind of weird, but kids love it too. I used to put balloons in my spokes, and it sounded like a Harley. So half-filled balloons, but I forget how that's done. I was a kid. Anyway, this is J.P. Collins with Book of Hours on Bike to Work Day, and I hope you have a great day. I hope you take your bike out sometime this week or next week. I know we have our Bike to Work Day another time of the month. May is Bike to Work month, by the way, and in San Francisco this is Bike to Work week, so today is Bike to Work Day. So we've got it covered. So take your bike out. It's May. The weather is beautiful. It should be beautiful everywhere. I heard even in Virginia, where it can be a little hot and humid, it's actually nicer weather than it is here. So this is J.P. Collins. I'm signing off from Book of Hours. Bike to Work Day. Happy Bike to Work Day. And trolls will be ignored. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks.